daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello to you, wherever you are in the world. You're listening to the Daily Premier League podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. It is Sunday evening UK time, and we've just watched a thrilling game between Arsenal and Manchester City to wrap up the weekend's action. And to bookend the weekend, you will have listened to the podcast, will have heard me rant on yesterday morning with my various predictions for the games coming up. Most of them were wrong. I'm not going to lie.
Did you get any clues in anyone?
There were some right, there were some wrong. So there we go. So I'm your host, Nick Britton. As always, today I'm joined by one of our great podcasts. I'm very, very pleased and very excited to have him on. Our GSPN podcaster, Wale Bakare. Wale, hello. Thank you very much indeed for coming along. How are you, mate?
I think I'm all right. Great to be on the pod tonight after that amazing game between City and Arsenal. I just really thought it was going to be another one of Arteta's men being unlucky, but they got the equaliser in the end. Good result for Arsenal. Good result for Liverpool more.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad result for Man City either, I don't think, given the way the game went. So if you haven't seen it or you're just catching up with it all, Erling Haaland put Manchester City ahead very early on with a brilliant Haaland goal, wasn't it? I mean, that was prime Haaland. He's flicked the ball on to Reinders, then just charged. It's frightening watching this guy sprint at full pace, half the length of the pitch, receive the pass back, one touch, bang in the back of the net. What a goal that was!
Yeah, amazing goal. I just wondered what happened with the Arsenal midfielders and the defenders. Haaland just charged through and he flicked the ball to Reinders. Good hold-up play by the striker. It does seem like that's the change we've seen this season with Haaland's style. Many months ago, we would always talk about all he does is gets the goal, but is never able to hold up play, especially in the big games. But he did that today. And Gabriel, Zubimendi, they just couldn't catch him, and he just went through on goal and expectedly finished the ball well, and it was a good goal for City. And they never really. He did get another chance later on, but they never really got another chance afterwards. But that was a good goal earlier on in the game.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, watching him just leave Arsenal players in his wake as he marauds. He doesn't even run; he just marauds. He's huge through the defensive line of Arsenal, just charging there. It's a sight to behold. It really was. But I suppose once he took that first touch on the return ball to get out of his feet, that ball's only ending up in one place. And that was go on. That was only after 8 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually, Gabriel would be involved in a very, usually the physical tussle with Haaland. And it did seem like, it was set up for that in this game as well. But Haaland did have a difference to his game, and once he flicked the ball to Reinders, there was just no stopping him. And naturally, his biggest threat has always been his finishing. It was just about getting the first touch right, as you said. And once he got that right, Raya really stood no chance.
Now, Arsenal started with the front three of Madueke, Gyökeres and Trossard. Surprising to see, well, I was a bit surprised to see Eze on the bench, but very warmed to see Bukayo Saka back on the bench. And it was Eze and Saka who came on at half-time, who I think made a massive difference because the second half was literally like a training game. It was just defence versus attack for the vast majority. And we don't see this very often. I mean, if you look at some of the match stats are insane for a game like this. Arsenal 67.2 possession, Man City 32.8. It's very rare, isn't it, that you see Manchester City with such low possession rates?
Yeah, you're completely right. But if there's a team that's able to punish City like that, it's Mikel Arteta's team. Is possession-based managers. Well, Arsenal are well drilled. They've done this for about 4 years now, and they've been great at this style. And so, the fact that City did start dropping deep later on in the game goes to show the respect Guardiola has for Arteta's team as well, and he knows that they're a team that can hurt you and can keep the ball well. And as you said, so you would rarely find a team keep the ball from City as much as Arsenal did. I was going to say that I did feel a bit sorry for Madueke because he was Arsenal's best player, in the first half, but he then had to leave for Saka. And I was thinking, oh, that's a bit harsh. But when you look at what Saka and Eze did when they came on, they completely transformed the game. And it did seem like Ateta got that one right.
Yeah, it
And
was a hard call. It was a hard call. I was the same. I thought Madueke was their best player, and he was really just getting the ball down and just taking his fullback on, running, trying to make something happen. And he's done that. You didn't really see that at Chelsea, but he's really started doing that since he's arrived at Arsenal. And it's good to see, isn't it? It's good to see.
I don't know. It's probably something about what Arteta says to him or the freedom Arteta's given him. We always knew he had that in him with Chelsea. We've not just seen it with Arsenal in the couple games for England as well. We've seen what he's been able to do. So, for some reason, um, maybe the defensive responsibilities, with Ento Maresca's side and Maresca is a bit more conservative than Ateta is, even though Ateta can be conservative as well sometimes.
Yeah.
But we've seen prime Madueke. It's just quite unfortunate for him because he rarely plays this good when he's on the left. So you need him on the right. And unfortunately for him, that's where Saka plays as well. And if Saka's fit, it will always be the first option. For Ateta, but it's a good backup to have Madueke playing that well on that right side as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Now then, it got to the right to the end of the game. Now, for so much of the half, it was Man City five at the back, four midfield. It was like a back nine. It really was like a back nine. And Donnarumma came and punched and fisted and got the ball away. And when he was needed, he was needed. Other than that, it was just head it away, kick it away, head it away, kick it away. And some of it was just launching up the pitch and reset, launch up. This very, very unusual kind of thing. And then as time ticked away, and you think it's not going to happen for Arsenal. They've been knocking at the door, but Man City have been so solid, and it must be said, fairly comfortable defending this lead. The Man City had a break. They had a break. It pulled them out, and we were 92nd minute of the game. Suddenly, Arsenal had an opportunity, and Eze dropped deep, picked the ball up, just lofted it over a high line of the Manchester City defence. Martinelli was onto it, and what a glorious chip. Because Donnarumma was about 200 foot tall, and he just lofted it over him. He was stranded on his 6-yard box, the goalkeeper, lofted it over him into the back of the net for what was probably a deserved equaliser. What did you think of the goal?
Amazing finish, great pass by Eze, great force touch by Martinelli, and fantastic finish. And as you said, Donnarumma is a huge figure, so he had to get that right, and he got a spot on. I think at the end of the day, City are not completely used to defending their goal for that long in a game. It did seem like if Arsenal kept knocking and creating chances, they were eventually going to get a goal, and they had the Emirate fans behind them. And City just as you said, City did come out at some point. They had a break and they dragged a couple of players up front, and that created the space for Arsenal. But I have to say that pass by Eze was great, timing the run perfectly by Martinelli as well. Has to be kudos to him because a lot of players could have gone offside there, and he timed the run perfectly. Perfect control, perfect lob over the goalkeeper. It was just a sequence of a lot of perfect, actions. And
It
total.
was. Yeah, it was. It's easy to suggest that the Man City defence just pushed too high and could have just dropped off and gone with him. It's easy to say that. But it was just a glorious ball from Eze, glorious run from Martinelli, and a sublime, absolute sublime chip with his. I think it was sort of the outside of his right foot.
Yeah.
And so, listen, what do you think this means? So let's take the wash up then. It's 1-1. Points are shared. What do you think this means for both sides?
Well, good result for both sides, considering you don't want to give many points away. The Premier League has been tight in the last couple of seasons, especially between, it was City and Arsenal for about 2 seasons, and then Liverpool came in the fray as well. So it's been tight between, and we're predicting this season would also be, between those three. You don't really want to drop, another 3 points. Arsenal already lost 3 points, to Liverpool. They didn't want to lose another 3 points to City. City have lost 2 games already, this season. I think I was catching up towards the end of the game. The commentator was saying Arsenal, didn't lose their second game last season until November. Losing
Yeah.
a second game this early in the season would have really hurt them. So they both got a point, although it's good for Liverpool considering they now, I think it's now 5 points between them and Arsenal, I think. This early on, it's still early, it's 5 games into, but it shows how competitive the league is and how important not dropping this points are. What we've seen, with Arsenal over the years is later on in the season, they will drop a couple of points and they really don't want to drop too much at the start. So it was very important for them that it wasn't 3 points they were dropping this game. So overall, it was good for them that they could get that goal and at least claw a point back in that game.
Yep, so a good point for Arsenal in the end, considering they trailed for so long and scored so late. A good point for Man City on the basis it's an away point to the Emirate, and Liverpool are the real winners. Great. There you go. That's the wash up of that. Let's move on to probably the game of the day yesterday, which was, for all sorts of reasons, Manchester United versus Chelsea. What a game. Chaos, biblical weather, 2 red cards. Goodness me. Ruben Amorim said in his programme notes that actions speak louder than words. And actually, the Manchester United team that he's been wanting to see, and I guess we've all been wanting to see, turned up. What did you think of the game?
Chaotic game. To be fair, the weather wasn't very great for football. United were a bit helped by Sanchez's red card at the start of the game, but I have to say they always, although it might sound like a cliche to say, but they always sounded like the team that wanted it more at the start. They just were hounding Chelsea and went after every ball. And they deservedly took the lead, even though Chelsea had gone down to 10 men. They took the lead, got the second goal. Although there were quite marginal, decisions in the game. Easily could have been offside. Bruno Fernandes's goal, Casemiro, finished well after, lucky the ball came to him after Luke Shaw again went for the ball more than the Chelsea defenders. So it just did seem like Chelsea were a bit asleep. Maybe it was it was a thing with the rain, but United did go for the game, got the goal. They could have. Found themselves in a weird situation with Casemiro's silly second yellow card and getting a red card, but they dug deep. Chelsea got a goal back, but United stayed in the game and got it. They were the better side in the game, and it's good for Amorim because there's been all sorts of talks about he's got 3 games to prove himself. Although the United hierarchy say that that's not the case, but it was only a matter of time. If
It's
he kept,
only a matter of time. Yeah, you can't keep
he
losing
needed,
games.
he really needed that result yesterday.
Yeah,
And
no,
boy,
it was massive. Yeah, it was a massive win for him. It was a massive win, and I think as much as the win, the performance would have
yeah,
really pleased him and really pleased his
yeah,
supporters. So if you think back a couple of weeks when they beat Burnley with a last second Fernandez penalty, everybody was still unhappy because the performance was pretty poor. Yesterday, I felt the performance was of a much higher, more determined, energetic level, and exactly what we want to see. As for Chelsea, though, odd decisions all over the place from Maresca. Now I know your whole game plan kind of goes out the window when your keeper's sent off after 5 minutes, and rightly so. I don't think anybody could argue with that red card. I'm not quite sure, and I haven't really seen an explanation of what it's for. I don't know whether it was a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity or whether it's just for a horrendous tackle because it was knee high on Mbuemo. I mean, it was a horrible challenge. Either way, it doesn't really matter. He's off the pitch, but then he takes Neto off, and then a few minutes later he takes Cole Palmer off, and you're almost going, well, you've conceded the game almost because you've got no attacking players left on the pitch.
well, what Palmer's was, it did seem like it was an injury thing, and but it was. It's not the first time your goalkeeper sent off start at the start of the game. Yes, it makes the game plan more difficult, but it's taking off Estavio and Pedro Neto. Maybe because he needed midfielders that could run, he needed legs that could go, box to box, and he thought he wouldn't get that from those players, particularly, from the wing. I think, although it's easy to say, after they've lost the game, things that could have been done better, but I think that it could have been just one of them, at that point. They were also not helped by the fact that Palmer was struggling and he had to go off early in the game because that's a player that can unlock a defense for them. But yeah, you're right. It was a bit weird with the two substitutions they made after the red card, and everything just went bad for them afterwards.
But if Palmer, as we know he's only just come back from injury, and we know subsequently that he kind of it was touch and go. It was touch and go whether he's going to play yesterday or not. But surely, I mean, I'm not. Look, it's easy to say, as you're quite right. Well, it's easy with hindsight. But if you've got to take off an attacking player after the red card to put another defender on the pitch, then surely you take off the player who's an injury risk first, and then make a decision on the player
Yeah,
who's fitter later. I
yeah,
don't know. Listen, it is what it is. But look, good result for Manchester United. I think the second goal summed it all up. The ball's in the Chelsea area. You've got 4 or 5 Chelsea players around it, and Luke Shaw, the smallest man on the pitch, out jumps them all. Just
yeah,
he wants that ball, and then it
yeah.
lands on
You're
Casemiro's
right.
head. It's 2-0. That kind of, for me, summed up much of the game. And so, listen, well done to Manchester United, because it was a much required win. As for Chelsea, yeah, they're just not quite stuttering. They're not quite hitting the stride yet. But we'll see what next week brings. Right, in just a moment, we're going to take a look at the Merseyside derby yesterday, Liverpool versus Everton. But before we do that, a word from our sponsor.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
You are listening to the Daily Premier League podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast. Thanks very much indeed for making this your daily listen. Do hit like, do hit subscribe, do get in touch with us through all our various social media channels. I did promise you, because Ken, as I explained yesterday, Ken's in hospital at the moment. Otherwise, he'd be normally joining me on a Saturday and a Sunday. And he's the one with all the email addresses. So when I tried to read out the email address yesterday on yesterday's show, I just couldn't remember it. I did promise to find it today, and I haven't done that. So I'll bring you the email address tomorrow in tomorrow's show. But we hope you're enjoying. I hope you're enjoying this. A quick and immediate reaction to all the weekend's games. Now, yesterday, the Merseyside derby. Liverpool 2, Everton 1. What did you make of it, Wale? A deserved win for Liverpool? Are they really sort of starting to hit their stride now?
Well, they sort of edged it overall, but it was a very close game. Naturally, that's what you get with the Merseyside derby a couple of times. When you add that with the fact that Liverpool they've been grinding out the wins, but they've not completely been convincing in many games this season. Although I look at Liverpool and I think for a large part of last season, even when they were coasting away, they did look like that for so many weeks, where they just edged out results and it did seem like they were just that winning machine and they will just get a victory. And that's what we've seen so far this season. Yesterday against Everton seemed like there was some weird wait to get into the game eventually, but Liverpool just got off the blocks and got the goals very early. Great goals. Gravenberch and Ugo Ekitike was had a great start to the season. Fantastic finish for the second goal. Liverpool, as expected, conceded a goal. Eventually, but what a lot of people thought, is this another Everton getting the second goal, Liverpool grinding out a final minute goal, but that wasn't the case. They kind of improved defensively, kept Everton at bay. They did create a couple of chances themselves. Florian Wirtz maybe could have done better on a break later on in the game, but Liverpool just sort of edged it. You can't really say, they blew Everton out of the waters, but they sort of maybe deserved it more on the balance of play.
they started off brilliantly. It was an exceptional. I mean, in many ways, it was a game of two halves, and the first half very much belonged to Liverpool. I thought they were that first 20 minutes they were exceptional. Everton just couldn't get anywhere near them, and Gravenberch's goal I think summed up that first 20 minutes performance. Running from deep, lofting it over the goalkeeper with I think it was with his wrong foot, because it was with his wrong foot, his left foot.
Well, it was his right.
He kind of lofted it. Yeah, it was his right foot. It came across from the right, and he kind of helped it on its way into the far corner. It was a glorious finish. And then Ekitike, he's playing really well. He's playing for his shirt. He knows he's got Alexander Isak breathing down his neck, and he's doing the business. And at that stage, when it's 2-0, you are looking at it going, goodness me, is this going to be 4-5 or 6? But fair play to Everton. They settled in. They didn't capitulate. They settled into it. I think that goal just came at the right time for them.
Yeah.
It just came at the right time. And again, that was a good finish as well. And the second half, they just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think you're absolutely right. If they had got the second goal to make it 2-2, nobody would have been surprised. Nobody would have been surprised. And then I think the game just sort of petered out in the last sort of 10 minutes. I don't think Everton had enough in them to produce a real grandstand finish. But their second half performance particularly, I think, shows how well they're progressing under David Moyes, because they've been involved broadly in a relegation fight for the last few years, on and off. But they've never really done anything other than lower mid-table. They've never been a good side to watch. But Moyes is turning them into a good side to watch. And Jack Grealish particularly seems to be given a second wind, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I have to say, although, as you know, I don't care, if Everton do well. I don't even want them to do well. But
So as a true Liverpool fan.
yeah, but they're doing. Moyes has brought back some. It does seem like there's some joy in their football. They kind of play better. Jack Grealish has had a fantastic start to the season. Played well yesterday. Again, gave Conor Bradley, a very tough game. Needed help a lot of times from Konate. Iliman Ndiaye had to move to the other side since Bradley came. Has also been doing good. I think what Everton hasn't had in the last couple of seasons is that potent central, centre forward who can, do the business for them. Dominic Calvert-Lewin always got injured and he's now left. Incidentally, got a goal, for Leeds yesterday. But with Beto and the other young man Barry, there's just not you're not going to get a lot of goals. And I just wonder whether that's what maybe they could have focused on, with the transfer window, and maybe could have gotten someone, get a 14, 15 goal striker. At the moment, they got strikers that will maybe get them 9, 10. And you need more if you're going to challenge for the top, especially closer to the European places, which is where Everton belong. When you look at the history and, the manager, and they've got a new stadium now. I'm sure they need this money from, getting into Europe. I don't think they want to be that, 12, 13, 14 finishing team at the end of the season. But yeah, Moyes has done great for them. The players look like they're enjoying their game. But overall, as I said earlier, it was always going to be tough for them to get a victory at Anfield.
Oh yeah, for sure. And David Moyes' record at Anfield for whoever is your manager is woeful. I think it's now 21 games, 21 defeats. So yeah, not really.
It's the same as me. He's got the same number of wins I've got.
He must hate going there. He must hate going there. But well done. Yeah, Liverpool. I think we saw more of the Liverpool we were expecting to see in that early half. We're still getting new players, getting used to playing with each other, how they play, what they play, and all that. And we had a chat on a podcast last week, Ken and I, and he said, "Look, our Liverpool just kind of is the bubble going to burst? They can't keep scoring late goals and winning games." And I said, my point to him was, "Look, if you're going to beat Liverpool at any stage of the season, at the early stage of the season is the time to do it, because they brought all these players in, they're playing them, and they're quite clearly just trying to bed in and get to know each other and all of that. So it does all look a little bit disjointed. Unfortunately for the rest of the Premier League, once these players have settled in and that all of those kind of little kinks are ironed out, they're just going to be an absolute monster of a team to try and beat. So, yeah, the fact they've played 5-1-5 at a time where everything is, as I say, bedding in a little bit, is a great achievement. It really is a great achievement. And I thought some of the play yesterday in the early part of the game was fantastic. Really, really, really good. Okay, we're going to have a quick whiz through the... I did say to you when you came on, didn't I? Before you came on, I said, right, we'll make this half an hour. This ain't going to be half an hour, but we'll do our best to whiz through the rest of the weekend's games for you. We've done quite a lot of talk in the podcast of late about managers under pressure. And sitting top of the queue of managers under pressure is undoubtedly Graham Potter. Lots of stories starting to emerge in the media around West Ham looking elsewhere. There were stories in the last 48 hours around Nuno, perhaps. One of the issues of managers getting sacked and being out of work is that it puts a lot of pressure on other managers who are fighting the sack. It doesn't help them, does it? And so they needed a result against Palace yesterday. They didn't get it. Palace winning 2-1 at the London Stadium. There were protests before the game. There's a lot of unrest in the crowd. West Ham, I don't know whether you saw this while they last week, released a statement, but it was more of a dissertation. It went on forever, broadly backing a manager and saying that we've invested in the stadium and all of that kind of stuff. But you don't really then want to be playing Palace, do you? Because they're so hard to beat. Jean-Philippe Mateta with his customary goal. Good man. Tyrick Mitchell, great hit from Mitchell. But I thought West Ham actually showed more yesterday than they have been showing in recent weeks. They didn't capitulate as they did against Tottenham recently. But it's not looking good for Potter, is it? It's not looking good.
No, it's not. And you're right. The sudden availability of Nuno Espirito Santo makes things hard for other managers. Porter, maybe. I know he just signed a new deal, the man at Wolves, but if he keeps losing games, it might be out as well, especially with Nuno having worked at Wolves before. But sticking to Porter, it's not really looking good for him. It hasn't been a good, not just this season, but his things generally at West Ham. I think it's a 7 wins and 20 or something he's had, and that's not great, especially for where West Ham were. Even when the fans had never enjoyed what David Moyes was doing, they won the Conference League, they got to the semi-final of the Europa League, they were getting the scalp of the big boys in the league. But with Potter, it's almost a struggle. I bet West Ham fans go to the London Stadium almost expecting to lose a game, and when they win, they I'm sure they were shocked with that win that they got against Forest. So
I know, yeah, everybody was shocked.
Yeah.
the whole world was shocked. That's crazy. Where's that come from? Absolutely madness. Part of the problem here is they've conceded 13 goals. 7 of them have been from corners. And yesterday we had a similar situation where Palace had a corner, Mark Gahey comes in, heads the ball, it gets tipped onto the bar, comes back out, Mateta heads it in, Gahey's not marked, Mateta's not marked, it's a goal. Later on in the second half, another corner, Lacroix comes in, totally unmarked, heads it against the bar. I mean, they're just not learning. That's the problem. They're not learning from this.
And it's interesting you talk about this goals from corners. I made the joke to someone yesterday and I said, look, Potter had a couple of months away from the game where he had no job. He's maybe not gotten up to speed with the fact that corner kicks are really important for a lot of the teams now. So he's maybe doing catch up, with defending corner kicks, and because West Ham used to be a team that made good use of set pieces themselves as well. All of a sudden they can't do that anymore. They can make use of the height of the defenders. Souček used to be someone who could nick the odd goal from a set piece, but they've just been in shambles really. And I love it when managers get time, but the league is so very cruel that you might not get that time. And with managers, waiting for jobs, there's Nuno, maybe someone will think of Erik ten Hag after his very terrible time in Germany, but there's relatively proper managers who would take on that job. And I just hope,
Yeah, I agree. It's worth saying that they did actually score from a corner yesterday, didn't they, West Ham? Although things you wouldn't expect to see is a corner coming across and Jared Bowen, of all people, heading it in. But it was a lovely goal. It was a good finish. I'm a massive Jared Bowen fan. I think he's brilliant. So I was glad to see him get on the score sheet. And then following the theme, very briefly, two managers who might well be looking over their shoulder met at Molineux, Pereira at Wolves and Farker at Leeds. And when Wolves took the lead, I've kind of said, my kind of sense of this is Wolves are massively underperforming. And they're kind of better team than their results show. And when they took the lead, didn't they, in 8 minutes? And it was a good goal. It was Koreki scoring. It was on his debut. It was really well worked. And at no point at that time, after 8 minutes, did you think by half time they'd be 3-1 down to Leeds. And Leeds scored 3 goals in the last 15 minutes of the half. And Wolves just capitulated. And all of us, and it's those kind of results that will get you the sack at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're completely right. And it's a bit of a strange one because, as I said earlier, he's just signed a new deal during the past week. I just wonder what the thinking is. At Molineux, I'm thinking, are they thinking if we say we even get relegated, we want some longevity and all? But in the past couple of seasons, Wolves haven't been the most patient team when we look at.
No. Well, Pereira came in. Was it late last year or early this year?
Yeah, late last year.
Late last year, wasn't it? And there was a little bit of an uptick.
Good results after.
Yeah, there was, wasn't there? Yeah, he did a good job. I think he's a good manager. I do. I'm just surprised. Can't quite work out what's going on there. I know they lost a couple of very high-profile players in the summer, both from the defence and the front line, but they've also signed players. And I know Strand Larsen's been injured. He's coming back, which will help. But I can't quite work out why they're just losing games. And if you're going to concede 3 to Leeds, who are my tip for being the division's lowest scorers this year, then you're in trouble. You are in trouble. The goals weren't. It was a good header from Calvert-Lewin, but the second goal was a free kick, and it was Stach, wasn't it? It was a free kick from Stack, and the goalie's just kind of stood there and misses it. It's on his side, and he takes instead of staying on his side, he takes a foot across, and then he can't get back. And it's a great free kick in the corner, but you've got to look at the keeper and go, you just got to do better.
It's 5 games in the season. Wolves have the hallmark of a team that will be going down. And I tell you what, every manager in the league would, they appear like good managers. But if you're not getting the results, what good are you? So, but it's one that turned around their fortunes last season. So we wouldn't also be surprised if it can, rack up some 3-4 wins and they could start doing the business. But at the moment, they've got the hallmark of a team that's going down.
Yeah, it's not looking good. 3 more games to whiz through very quickly then from yesterday. Brighton 2, Spurs 2, Burnley 1, Forest 1, and an entertaining Fulham victory over Brentford by 3-1. Tottenham and Brighton was a good game. It was entertaining. I thought Tottenham were the better side. I think they'll be happy with a point because it came late in the day because they found themselves 2-0 down despite dominating play. Thomas Frank's a great manager. I think Tottenham are capable of doing good things this season.
For a moment, I thought it was Ange that was still there because that was what used to happen with Ange. They would play well and just concede the goals, but they got themselves back in the game. Although the first goal back by Richarlison was a bit fortuitous. Kudus.
It just hit him and it could have gone anywhere, couldn't it? It landed right at his foot.
It was a good instinctive finish, and they got lucky late on with that own goal as well. But they completely deserved it. They outplayed Brighton. Brighton were okay to sit back and just eat them on the counter. Yakubu Minte just looked like was the fastest man in the world, on that pitch. And you're right. Thomas Frank is a good manager. Did great at Brentford. We always knew that once he got a better team, he could do. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham have a great season with him.
Yeah, I think they've been smart in the market. I mean, Javi Simmons looks a good player. He's come off the bench yesterday, made a real difference. Mohamed Kudus is a good player. Bergval's now playing, very regularly. He's a good player. They've got a lot. It feels to me.
Waiting to see Kolomani though is a good one as well.
Yeah. They've got a lot more creativity than I think they've had. I just wonder. Obviously, Solanke's out injured. I don't really trust Richarlison to get that many goals, although he has started the season pretty well. But he's not a player who's ever going to get 20 goals a season. He's just never been that player. So they need Solanke back fit, I think. And I think they'll be fine. But as for Fabian Herzler, he needs more. He needs more from his team. I think if he's going to hit the heights of last season. Big Ange took his team to Burnley, a 1-1 draw away at Burnley. I don't know, mate. I don't know whether this is a good result or not. Because Burnley, I think they're going to get relegated this season. It's very hard to see any argument to say they're going to finish outside the bottom three. They are difficult to beat. They are quite a defensive team.
Yeah.
So you might argue going there and getting the points all right, or you might argue you should be putting teams like this away if you're a top 6 or 7 side.
Yeah.
Is a 1-1 draw away at Burnley any good? I don't know. You tell me.
No, well, it doesn't. It doesn't also do Forest a lot of good, except for the fact that at least Ange wasn't losing another game, especially after that horrendous showing in the League Cup. Losing.
Yes. Oh, losing. Yeah, those 2 injury time goals that lost to Swansea. Yeah.
So yeah, it was good for them that they didn't lose the game. But as you said, Burnley look like a side that will go down. They've been though unlucky with results against Liverpool, results against United. They could have gotten a point in those games, but they look like that side that will always try to get a point and will be fine. And just hope that other things go their way. With the way the Premier League is set up at the moment, see from 13 to 20, any one of them could go down, and you really want to get those results, especially when you're playing at home. And it doesn't look like Burnley have got enough in them, to get
No,
the wins.
you need to be winning games. Signs from Forest, I thought that Ange ball is coming into a bit more effect. They were more entertaining than I think Nuno's side yesterday. There was periods of the game where you'd see the centre halves, Milenkovic, I'm thinking about particularly, starting play, almost starting the attack from 25, 30 yards outside of the Burnley goal, and Forest having 6, 7, 8 players in front of him. Now, you'd never see that under Nuno, and of course that leaves you exposed at the back, because that's what we're used to with Ange, but they were creating more, and it was a little bit more entertaining, I must say.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm not very confident. I'll ask you, 2 questions. When you look at Tottenham last season, you and Nottingham Forest, you'd argue maybe Tottenham have got better players when you talk quality. What Forest have done is sacked a completely different manager, brought in a completely different one, different styles, and you want these players to adapt. Yeah, they will. They did look better yesterday, but I'm sure we will see so many games where they would maybe become last season's Tottenham, play well, concede the goals, and I don't know. Ange for me is down on confidence when he does well with the media, says all this corny stuffs, but I just don't know whether he's got the confidence at the moment, and I'm just not very confident about what they've done really at Forest. But that's a whole different conversation.
No, it's a strange. The whole thing feels a bit strange. The whole thing. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out. It's a hard one to call at the moment. And then the last game yesterday was an entertaining game. Yeah, Fulham. We see Brentford started well, and I thought when they scored, Fulham look a little bit edgy. I thought Brentford would go on and maybe win the game, but 2 goals in 90 seconds absolutely killed them. One was a horrendous defensive error. One was a brilliant finish from Harry Wilson, by the way. Pinpoint boy from Alex Iwobi. And Wilson just swept it in first time, bent it round the goalkeeper. And from that moment on, Fulham never looked back. And it could have, well, it did score a fourth, but it was ruled out by VAR. But they could have gone on the rampage. And it's a good thing. And Marco Silva needed it. Because again, Fulham, they haven't been busy in the transfer market. I know they had a kind of last minute couple of deals, but Kevin from the Brazilian striker looks a very good buy. But yeah, Fulham just feels like they just need a result like this to really kickstart their season.
Yeah, you're right, and they're one of those teams where when they play well and get good wins like they did yesterday, you wouldn't be entirely surprised. But they're also able to struggle sometimes, and things just don't work out for them. But they were fantastic yesterday. It could have been a rampage, as you said, and it was a good result for them. I worry for Brentford, though. They were one of the teams that were relatively assured of their position in the league, but they lost the manager, and that wasn't just the issue. They then lost Mbuemo, lost Wisa, and I know they've brought in some other players at the moment, but they just seem like they seem to struggle. I saw their game the other week against Chelsea. They will put in the effort, Are they able to get the goals that will keep them in the league? And Mbeumo got 20 last season. We
Yeah,
said got 19. I don't think they've got two players that'll get them 39 goals this season.
that's a huge hole, isn't it? That is a
Mm.
huge hole to fill, without a doubt. And I mean, look, I'm not going to lie here. Well, I don't need to lie because it's on the podcast, so anybody can hear it. I have Brentford in my bottom three when we did
Oh
our
yeah.
pre-season predictions. I think they've got a long, hard road.
Mm.
Partly because, and I'm not criticising this at all, because it may work out, it may not, I don't know. But partly because having lost Thomas Frank, they appointed Keith Andrew, who has never managed at this level. So you're asking a rookie manager in the Premier League, having lost their best, pretty much their entire sort of goal machines and their strike force, to keep them up. And I think it's a big ask. It wasn't. I mean, they also lost Norgard, didn't they, to Tottenham, who was their kind
Yeah.
of one of their key drivers in midfield. So
Yeah.
it's a hard ask. And yeah, I don't know with Brentford. There were signs, I thought, in the last 2 or 3 weeks where they looked to improve after a poor start. That really awful first 45 minutes of the season when we were 3-0 down
Yeah.
at Forest.
You're right.
But they are signs that they were improving. But yeah, games like yesterday, worry me slightly. A couple more
Yeah.
games to talk about, but first, Marco Silva and indeed Keith Andrew know the importance of selecting their right teams. And here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. As Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. So if you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr. Right, actually, let me just do this.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Yep, this is the daily Premier League sportscast with me, Nick, and my special guest, Wale. Great to have you along board, Wale. Good to see you, my friend. A couple of games then, just to go over. Actually, we've saved the worst till last here because Bournemouth 0, Newcastle 0 was it was a bit of a dirge, wasn't it? There wasn't much to report on this.
It was dull, and to think I chose to, see that over Sunderland and Villa, but it was dull. And I was watching. I'm quite interested in the Newcastle's Newman Voltemade, and how well it will play. I watched the game against Barcelona during the week in the Champions League, and I saw him a lot at the Euros, under 21 Euros, and he was a great player. It's got the size. If he gets the service, it will get you goals and it will play well. But when you've got a striker like that, and then the ball goes to Jacob Murphy, and he tries to go back to Tonali, and Tonali tries to cross the ball, and they never do, and they just never gave the man the service in this game against Bournemouth, and Newcastle never looked like scoring. It was a bit of a strange lineup at the
It
start.
was 7 changes, wasn't it? Yeah, 7 changes from Eddie Howe. There was no Joelinton. There was no Bruno Guimaraes. There was no Anthony Elanga. Yeah.
So it was a bit of a strange one, but overall, he just didn't get any service. And Bournemouth as well, going the other way. Usually, would create a lot of time. I know they got a goal that was quite a close offside call. Fantastic run. Fantastic run by Brooks. It nearly was. But usually the key players just couldn't get into the game. Tavernier wasn't so great. Semenyo couldn't really get into the game. But they are a team that are difficult to beat, and they just. It was a game of, well, if we're not going to get a goal, you're not going to score us, and they just, tried to grind out the 1 point.
Yeah, I think so. It was a bit disappointing. I expected more from Bournemouth. I think when I saw the Newcastle lineup, I thought, okay, they've come for us 0-0 here, and they're going to be hard to break down. But I did expect a little bit more from Bournemouth going forward, but neither side really got into any rhythm. It was a very scrappy game. Not much to see, not much to report home. But, what? Points apiece isn't the worst result. And then finally, an interesting one up at Stadium of Light today. Sunderland sharing the points. They continue their good start to the Premier League season for them. Aston Villa finally get a league goal, their first league goal of the season. Congratulations, I think. To them, it was a banger as well. Matty Cash smashed it in. It was a great goal. Ronaldo said, no, Ronaldo, I don't know how to pronounce it. Ronaldo isn't Ronaldo, is it? Yeah. Not Ronaldo, no. Ronaldo was sent off after 33 minutes, the Sunderland defender, for kicking out at Cash. So they were played a good chunk of the game, well over an hour with 10 men, when you account for injury time, obviously. And Isidore, as he has done so many times already this season, saved them a point with a goal in the 75th minute. Now, I've been having a quick look at the reaction by Aston Villa fans, so I'm interested to see kind of where the Villa fans were and whether they were pleased with with a point. Hurrah, good for them. Were they pleased with their first goal of the season? And the answer is no. Looking at the Villa forum, looking at X and other social media platforms are available. No, they seem really, really fed up. It's been a very curious start to the season, hasn't it, for Villa?
Yeah, and understandably, I think they had a very torturous summer. They just really couldn't get going. And it wasn't just about the summer. This started in January when they brought in a lot of players that they were almost unlikely to keep at the end of the season. So they, had to lose Rashford, what was the spot? Asensio, I think.
Asensio. Then Jacob Ramsey went to Newcastle, didn't he?
Yeah. So it just hasn't. It wasn't a great summer for them. They couldn't get players in, and then there was the constant question whether Martinez was going to stay, which I found a bit of a strange one there. But if there's one thing we know about Villa is they've got a good manager. He will get the boys back to, and they've got the core of the team still. Morgan Rogers hasn't had a great start to the season. Same for Ollie Watkins. They are a team that is suffering from some of the off-field activities around the club, but with the manager that they've got, you would expect them to, get around to winning games again.
Yeah, they need Yuri Tielemans back. He's still injured. I think Harvey Elliott's been. I think that's a really good signing. If they can get him playing regularly, that looks better. As you say, Morgan Rogers needs to find a bit of form. Ollie Watkins needs to find a bit of form. They're all good players. They're all good players. They're more than capable of getting out of this. And I agree with you. I think Unai Emery, as long as he's given time to do this, I think we'll get them out of this slump at the start of the season. And as for Sunderland, well, they continue, what's been a very good start to the season. They finished this weekend in 7th spot. They couldn't have wished for anything better than this.
Yeah, you're right. And trust me, they will need these points come the end of the season. So it's good they're getting, this result. Especially when they play at home, and that's what you need from these teams. You don't want to drop those points when you play at home. If there's a time that you can get a result against Villa, it's now. They're not really playing well, and considering they went down to 10 men, it was a fantastic result for them. So surprisingly, because I remember watching Sunderland in the playoff final last season against Chris Wilder's Sheffield, and they never really played well, but they, got the goal that was important and came through it. And I thought, that's a team that'll be finishing 19-20 next season. But we what I've seen so far, they might just be fine come the end of the season. But we know there's still 33 games to go.
There's still 33 games to go. Yeah, I saw Sunderland twice last year in the Championship, and they impressed me massively. I think they had a really youthful, really energetic side. Regis Lebris, I think, is a very smart manager. You're right, they've come up through the playoffs. That's not often ideal, but they've spent a lot of money in the summer, and they seem to have bought quite wisely. So, good for them. But you're right, they'll need points at the start of the season. When you're a promoted team, you need points at the start of the season. But a cracking start then for Sunderland. Right, okay, that brings us to the end then of the podcast and a wrap-up of all your Premier League games. As we finish game week 5, let's have a quick look at the table. We've got Liverpool top 15 from 5, then 3 teams on 10 points in 2nd, 3rd and 4th. That's Arsenal, Tottenham and Bournemouth. Everybody's played 5, by the way. Then Palace sitting in 5th, Chelsea 6th. And then down at the bottom, Wolves played 5, lost 5, 0 points. West Ham played 5, 3 points, 19th and 18th. Aston Villa similarly played 5, 3 points. Then you've got a couple of teams above them, Brentford and Burnley, with 4. So that's how the very early season table shapes up. It's not it's not. It doesn't. What does it tell us? I don't know. It might tell us something. It might not. I guess we'll know at the end of the season. I think it's a bit worrying looking at Liverpool with a 5-point gap already. It will worry everybody else in the league. But there we go. There we go. Right. Well, listen, Wale, thanks ever so much for joining me, my friend. It's been lovely to chat through the weekend's results from you. We'll get you back on very soon.
Cheers,
if you want to come back on. So take care, and everybody out there, thank you very much indeed for listening to today's Daily Premier League podcast. We'll be back with you tomorrow. I'm hoping to be back with Ken if he's finally managed to crawl out of his hospital bed. We shall find out. But until then, everybody, look after yourselves, look after each other. Goodbye.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.